What is up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And this is the Buffalo Bills draft review. And guys, I do my reviews a little bit different, all right? So I am going to grade some of the players. I'm going to grade all the players drafted within the first 3 rounds. I will touch on a couple of the other players in day 3, but I really like to focus on the guys that are going to be impact players right away. And those are the day 1 and day 2 picks. That's just kind of the way the NFL works most of the time. You know, sometimes there are gems that you find in the later rounds. It obviously happens every single year. I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to focus on the guys that we're actually expecting production out of in year 1. So with that being said, I want to start this video by talking about a couple of guidelines that I have, all right? And the first one is, did you have a plan? And what I mean by that is, did you come into the draft with a plan for success in this draft? And the Buffalo Bills absolutely did. They came into the 2020 draft looking to add weapons, and that became clear in free agency when they spent their first round pick on Stefon Diggs. I mean, you can't get more obvious than what they were wanting to do. They want to put weapons around Josh Allen. And it makes sense. Josh Allen has not had a ton of weapons. Last year, they kind of tried to fix the receiver problem by going into free agency and getting kind of cheaper options that could maybe help for a year. But really what the Bills need to do is give Josh Allen no excuse to fail. And I think they did that in this draft, not only by taking Stefon Diggs in the first, by doubling down on wide receiver and also taking a wide receiver in the 4th and 6th round, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. But my next guideline is, did you draft offensive line? To me, there is not a bad team with a good offensive line. And I feel like offensive line is the position that needs to be attacked in the draft every single year. And my personal feeling about it is, did you draft an offensive lineman in the first 4 rounds? Well, the Bills didn't do that, and they didn't draft an offensive lineman at all in this class. I understand that I'm kind of giving the Bills crap for a position that people would say it wasn't a huge need, right? And you're absolutely right. It's not a huge need right now for the Bills. This is a team-wide and NFL-wide guideline that I have. I believe teams should take offensive line early and often every single year, because it takes away the pressure on the quarterback, it takes away the pressure on the running back, it takes away the pressure on the wide receivers. Your ability to score points starts and ends with the offensive line. Look no further than the Browns last year if you're really wondering why I have such an emphasis on that. You can have all the talent in the world around you. If you don't have an offensive line, it just doesn't matter. All right, so that's a no. Not the end of the world for the Bills. I still really like this draft. But moving on, the third guideline that I have is, every year I believe teams should add a piece of the strength of the draft. And what I mean by that is, every single year you come in and you know certain position groups are stronger than others, right? And to me, the good teams, even if it's not a need, even if it's not a real issue at the time, they take a player from the good position group, mainly because it's just good value. And in this year, you know what it is. It's wide receiver. Wide receiver is the clear and obvious strength of this draft. And it really worked out well for the Bills because wide receiver was a need for the Bills. So they were able to obviously trade for Stefon Diggs and also get some guys in the 4th and 6th round that might have a chance to get some serious playing time in year 1. But we will move on and look at the draft picks that they had in the first 3 rounds. The first thing I do want to talk about is their first round pick, because I understand they traded it, but to me, their first pick is Stefon Diggs. I mean, that's what they spent their first pick on, is Stefon Diggs. So I feel like a moment should be spent in this draft profile giving the Bills credit for getting a starter with their first round pick. I'm going to do that for every team that didn't have a first round pick. To me, they did. They spent it on something. This is very obviously Stefon Diggs at 22. Now, I would argue maybe Justin Jefferson is better, considering you don't have to pay him for the next 5 years. Not considerably, really. I mean, I would make that argument. Now, obviously, the Bills could not have known that, and there's no way to know if they would have chosen Justin Jefferson over Stefon Diggs given that opportunity. So I don't have an issue with that. To me, if you look at it just based on value, based on the potential of Justin Jefferson, based on the fact that he is relatively cheap for the next 4 to 5 years, and Stefon Diggs, who was kind of a head case, not a huge diva by wide receiver standards, but he was a little bit of a diva causing problems in Minnesota. You able to send him off and receive other picks later in the draft along with Justin Jefferson, who essentially replaces Stephon Diggs right off the bat. I think that's a better deal for the Vikings than it was the Bills, all things considered. But again, that's hindsight being 2020. Either way, the Bills got a great pick with their first round pick, and I want to give them credit. They made Josh Allen's life easier, which is the theme of this draft. Make Josh Allen's life easier. In the second round, the Bills, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I don't want to talk about this pick. This pick upset me. See, I'm a Dolphins fan. This is my team. And AJ Epinesa was falling. And I don't personally know why it was falling. To me, AJ Epinesa is a top 35 player at worst, right? I expected him to go in the first round, and when he fell into the second, I thought he would go early. Now, I said in my draft profile video that I didn't believe AJ Epinesa was a surefire first-round pick. I said that I would have an issue taking him in the first round, but in the second round, I thought he was a pretty good value, and I was just waiting and waiting. And at first, there was no way he could fall, and then it gets closer, and hope starts to creep in. The Bills do what they always do and take one of my favorite players. Life of a Dolphins fan. All right, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. I do apologize to any Bills fan watching that. Y'all got a great pick. The Bills got a steal with AJ Epinesa at number 54 in this draft. To not have to trade up, to not have to move up and take the best available player, I mean, you can't beat that. And I truly believe this is one of the situations where the Bills would have gone receiver if AJ Epinesa wasn't there. I just truly believe that in my heart. I believe that the Bills came into this class knowing that they needed more than one receiver to fix that receiver room. So it would not have surprised me a bit, even if they would have passed on AJ Epinesa and grabbed a receiver. I don't think I'd be hating on it right now. So I'm just absolutely astonished that he fell. I'm proud of the Bills. It seems like the Bills do this all the time. He's going to fit really well in with the Bills. If you are interested on a deep dive in AJ Epinesa, check out the video that I just mentioned. I will put a link to that in the description below if you are interested. And with their third pick, they continue the trend of adding talent to that offense. They get Zach Moss out of Utah, and this dude is an absolute bruiser. And when I say bruiser, I mean he is a monster. He runs people over. He is a step and a half down from Derrick Henry, but man, that is not a bad place to be. That's a damn good power back, and pairs really, really well with what they already have at running back with Devin Singletary. I think this is a really, really great 1-2 punch, and just this is how you build your running back room. Build your running back room with day 2 and day 3 picks at running back position. The Bills had not a very good running game not too long ago, and I feel like they've completely turned that around. I think Zach Moss is going to be an instant impact. Again, I don't know how to think about this in a fantasy perspective, which I am going to have videos coming out with me and my podcast partner, Jacob, talking about the fantasy aspect of the draft and things like that. I'm going to get into fantasy big time. Right now, I'm still all in on the draft, so I'm going to kind of avoid only focusing on the fantasy impact of this pick. But I do look at it, and I think Devin Singletary kind of loses value in fantasy drafts, but that's kind of beside the point. I think the Bills won big on this pick. And by the way, guys, the Bills came in with 7 picks and they left with 7 picks. They did not make one draft day trade. And if you watch a lot of these videos, you're going to find that I really love to dive into the draft day trades, look at the value and things like that. Obviously, I can't do that with the Bills because there weren't any, and that was actually kind of a trend. I think part of the reason for that is the fact that this was a virtual draft. There wasn't a lot of time to make trades. There were issues like technical issues that kind of held people back, and it's kind of weird to think with the technology advancements that we have that would be an issue, but it was. I really believe that there's a lot of teams that just kind of stayed put and picked where they were going to pick. I think the other aspect of that is the fact that there's a lot of value in this draft. I mean, there was a lot of talent in this draft, and at a certain point you just didn't want to give up assets to move up because that means you're picking less less players, and you didn't want to get assets to move down because you're missing out on the best available player to you right there. So I mean, I think that does have something to do with it. This was a really good draft, and that can maybe affect trades a little bit. I think those two things definitely brought the amount of trades down a lot, and for the Bills, there weren't any. So what I want to do is I am going to just dive in a little bit more on the other picks. I mentioned Gabriel Davis earlier. That's a guy that I do believe is great value in the 4th round. It's a dude who probably should have gone in the 3rd round, but really in this class he kind of could have gone anywhere. It just depends on how you value him. Definitely great value. And then, of course, the pick that I'm sure everyone's heard about already, Jake Fromm goes to the Bills in the 5th round. I think as far as drafting a backup quarterback in the 5th round, no issue at all with that. I think that's a great pick, and Jake Fromm's going to be in the NFL for the next 12 years. And I feel the safest about saying that than I do about Joe Burrow or any of the other quarterbacks. I think no matter what, Jake Fromm is going to be a pretty good backup quarterback for a long time. Might be a journeyman, might not spend all his time in Buffalo, might have a lot of different jerseys when he ends his career, but I think he's going to be in the NFL for a long time. So going to the Bills and having a defined role as the backup behind Josh Allen, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he's going to be a good backup. I think he'll have good work ethic and all the other things that go into that conversation. I mean, he's been talked about throughout the draft process as a backup, and to be honest, there's nothing spectacular about his physical ability. So I just have a good feeling about that. The weird thing for me is the Buffalo Bills fit, only because he's just the opposite of Josh Allen. And I mean that. I don't think that you could name a quarterback more opposite of Josh Allen than Jake Fromm. I mean, just polar opposites in every possible way, except I'm sure Josh Allen is pretty smart too. So I did think that was a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a backup quarterback. You need a guy who can come in and be the reliable player that can run the offense when your starter's out, and who's, I mean, let's be frank, not going to really threaten the starter for his job. I think that's a big part of the backup quarterback position nowadays. You look at guys like Jameis Winston, for instance. He doesn't have a job as a backup for a reason, because there's a lot of talent there. Yes, there's a lot of issues too, and there's absolutely no doubt about that. But I mean, you look at half of the NFL, there's no way the coach wants Jameis Winston as their backup because a couple bad games from their starter and you have a quarterback controversy on your hands. That's a real thing in the NFL. I 100% believe that. And Jake Fromm is not going to be an issue in that department. So very good pick. And then I absolutely love Isaiah Hodgins out of Oregon State. I thought that was a great pick in the 6th round. Again, another guy who I would not have seen falling that far. I think I actually had Isaiah Hodgins right next to Gabriel Davis on my draft board. So I mean, just insane value there for Isaiah Hodgins. Never gonna be a star in the NFL. I don't believe he will be, but I mean, just a solid starter that I think has a pretty high floor, regardless of what maybe the NFL is saying about him right now. So as far as my favorite move for the Buffalo Bills, I loved the fact that they were able to stay patient and get AJ Epinesa in the 2nd. That was an awesome pick for them. They didn't have to give up draft value. I would not have blamed them a bit. Honestly, I probably would have praised them for trading up 10, 12 spots and landing AJ Epinesa in the 2nd. Instead, they wait, and they're able to land a very good starter right off the bat. I really believe that he has a pretty high floor. Yes, the ceiling isn't astronomical, but I do believe he has a high floor, and he's going to be a good starter for a long time. I also love the fact that they were able to ensure their star in Stephon Diggs, and then just be patient throughout the draft and not give up assets to move up. I would have liked to see a little bit more draft movement because I'm a nerd and I like to dissect stuff like that, but that's okay. I think they had a very good draft. I think they had an efficient draft for what they needed. It really worked out for them. As far as my least favorite move, I am going to be a little bit nitpicky here. When I look at the Buffalo Bills' entire draft and taking into account their trades before the draft, I have to say their worst decision was trading for Stephon Diggs. And I'm not saying that was a bad deal. I think they got a very good player out of it. I think they got somebody who's going to be a star in Buffalo for a long time. But if you ask me, I'd probably rather have Justin Jefferson and not have to pay him than Stephon Diggs and have to pay him. But again, hindsight's 2020. There's absolutely no way they could have known that Justin Jefferson was going to fall to them. And I would be surprised if the Bills staff would tell you that they would rate Justin Jefferson higher than Stephon Diggs right now. Do I think his ceiling could be higher than Stephon Diggs? Absolutely. But right now, coming out of college, no, there's no way. That's a clear and obvious win for the Bills. Again, I'm kind of being nitpicky here because I'm going to choose a worse move for every team, and there's not really a terrible move here, so that's what I'm going to pick. And as far as the biggest surprise of the Buffalo Bills draft, I was surprised that they took Jake Fromm out of Georgia. Again, I already mentioned or talked about it earlier. Just a backup that is the opposite of Josh Allen was a little bit surprising to me. I 100% understood the move. I didn't have an issue with the move at all, but it definitely surprised me. As far as the Buffalo Bills draft as a whole, I am going to give it a B. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I really struggled. Do I want to give them a B minus or a B or a B plus? I'm kind of in that range. I'm going to settle on a B. I really did like ensuring that they were going to get Stephon Diggs. Again, I did think it was a little bit weird. I thought that maybe gave up a little bit too many assets for a guy that is a little bit of a head case, a little bit of an issue in Minnesota, along with the fact that this is an incredibly deep draft. And now you're going to have to pay a receiver as opposed to getting one on the cheap for 4 or 5 years. That's why this draft doesn't get into that A minus range. So that's my personal opinion there. I totally understand the move. I am not really shitting on the move. I think a B is a perfectly fair grade. I think it's a very good grade as a whole. But that's really the one thing that I'm just like, man, I think there were other options that maybe would have worked out better in the long run. That doesn't mean this is a bad run. That doesn't mean they're going to be a bad football team. I actually really think the Bills are going to be pretty good this year. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Please leave a comment. Let me know. Talk to me about football. As long as you're not just outright mean, I'm going to respond. I'm going to talk to you because I can't get enough of this sport, and I'm willing to talk to anybody about any team. So there you go. Please hit a like, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see more of in the future. I am doing draft reviews on every single team. So if you don't see your team on the channel yet, it is coming, I promise. But all right, guys, peace.